I wouldn't have never have done it. I never would have chosen it.
Who was Michael? Well, but the Men in Black, like.
Oh, I hate that so much.
Really?
Of course. Only because when you have a thing that people can point to and think that they're being original
and hilarious.
Exactly. And then it never stops.
Matthew Broderick, to drop a name, he did not give me the name of this podcast, but when he was on the show recently, he was saying how just as he was walking into the studio, the very steps you just walked on yourself.
I had no idea that was the hallowed ground that Matthew Broderick himself had trod.
Someone said to him, Bueller?
Oh, no.
And he was like, yep.
I guess that's the correct response.
And the guy was like, wait, was I not the first? And he's like, no, not the first. No, but it's very funny, and it's great. And guess what? Yes, I am.
Right. I just, I mean, I guess I hadn't put myself in Matthew Broderick's shoes up until this moment. But in thinking about it, of course he gets Bueller.
Yeah.
Bueller. And how maddening that must be after 30 or 35 years.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a couple of other things.
Yeah, but the Bueller just lends itself to that.
Well, it's fun to say.
It's not like somebody's going, Dying Godzilla?
Yeah.
Which is his other best-known credit.
Yes. War Games. I want to be your producer. They probably do that too.
Sometimes.
You had a moment early in your life, I would imagine. I'm going to segue so gracefully away from the great Matthew Broderick and shine my light right back on the great Michael Ian Black, who does not. I'll just call you Michael Black then, or Michael Schwartz was your original
Yes, that is
name.
my birth name, my birthed name.
Does anyone on the planet call you that?
Michael Schwartz? Yeah, my old friend. Some of them do.
What does it say on your driver's license?
Michael Ian Black. That is my name now.
Legal.
It's legally my name.
So your children's last name
is Black.
Okay.
Part of the reason I legally changed it is because my wife's name is Martha, and when we were getting married, she was terrified that she would be known as Mrs. Marty Schwartz.
Yeah, I was a terrifier. I think it's a very elegant, lovely name.
She's my height. She's almost 6 feet tall and blonde, and nobody could look less like a Marty Schwartz.
But that's why it's funny.
Yes, and that's why my dear friends often called her Marty Schwartz.
Just to stick them in.
Yeah,
so that's what a good friend does.
And I think she likes it now, because it's not really her name. But she said she wouldn't have changed her name. I mean, anyway. she hyphenated.
She did take Black.
She's Hagen Black, because her main name is Hagen.
That would make sense.
Yes.
So when we go back to Michael Ian Black before he legally became Michael Ian Black, at some point as a kid, you realized that you were interested in performing. When did that begin for you?
Summer camp. I was 9, and I don't know why I decided to be in the camp play.
Was it Sleepaway or Day?
It was Sleepaway. I think it was because there was a girl that I liked who was in the play.
So were you not Sporty Spice as a kid?
I wasn't not. I mean, I played a lot of baseball, and I felt comfortable playing sports. It was never like a tremendous... Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, as a 9-year-old, yes, I was passionately invested in baseball, in playing baseball. But then I started doing plays, and a couple of years later, my mom basically gave me a choice because she didn't want to drive me around.
Right.
She was like, you can either do Little League or you can do a play. And I was like, I'll do the play.
And this was in...
New Jersey. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
You're asking for geographical information.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right.
So, you grew up in New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey. I'm from Teaneck.
Okay.
Do you know where that is?
Vaguely.
And you're from...
Hillsborough.
And did you spend your whole childhood there?
The great majority of it, yes.
And were either of your parents artistic?
No.
But supportive of you? Were you listening to like cast albums? Were you?
No.
Did you come into? I mean, you had some.
No, I wasn't like
proximity to New York City.
Yeah, and one of the gifts that my mom gave us was she and her partner Arlene. My mom was gay.
I'm glad, because Arlene is like a terrible guy's
name for a guy.
Worse than Marty Schwartz.
Yes. They liked theater, and they would take us to Bucks County Playhouse in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and I saw a lot of musicals there. And I love doing musicals, but I can't sing and I can't dance.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
have you done a lot of musicals?
no, because I can't sing nor can I dance. But when I was a kid and one wanted to do theater, it's like that's kind of what you did.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of productions of Equus around that you would cast yourself in, and so.
But there should have been.
In point of fact, I was in a production of Equus.
Children's theater producers.
Well, I went to
please note.
Stage Door Manor, which you probably know of.
Yes.
The theater camp for precocious children, and I was in a production of Equus.
Who were some of the people who might still be acting that were in you, who are alumna around the same time as you?
Josh Charles, the
Uh-huh.
actor.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Mark Sherman, the playwright.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander Chaplin, the actor.
I know him well. He'll be so happy that you just mentioned him.
Yeah, in fact, I think I got a text from him within the last day or so that I ignored. Through no fault of his, but I think I just was.
Well, that would be all on you, actually. It would not be a fault of his if you did not respond.
Well, how dare he text me?
He's also very
dare
funny. He's a very funny person.
He's far funnier than I will ever be, far more verbally dexterous than maybe anybody I know. Impossibly so.
And you know many verbally dexterous people. So
I
that
do.
is high praise.
I do. The difference between Alexander Chaplin and the other people is the other people can also be quiet.
Mm.
And Sandy, as he is known, cannot.
Right. Right. Sandy, are you listening? You may take this out, just because he's innocent in all of this.
No, how dare he text me?
Okay, so another mutual friend who was at the camp with you.
Is whom?
I'm saying, you're right, so that
Seth
was
Herzog,
Sandy.
who you must know.
Yeah.
The New York City-based comedian. I know I'm forgetting people.
So Summers at Beanie Feldstein, who you probably know, was just on the show.
I know the name. I don't
She
know.
was in Lady Bird and a wonderful movie that's out
that's who
now.
she
and
is. Yes, I know
she's
exactly
great,
who
and
she is.
Just finished
Was
a run
she a
in Holo
stage door
Dolly.
kid?
Yes, and she was telling me all about I was like, was it competitive? And she was like, no, it's yes.
Yes. Oh, she's much younger than me. That's why I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, she could be our child.
Wait, are we having a child?
So that's the other thing when you come on this show. It's two things. It's kind of like, it's not about promoting a specific project. We talk about your life in its entirety, and we have a baby.
Wow. I mean,
Is that weird?
I know, I'm thrilled. I'm
My
honestly a
husband
little
actually
thrilled.
loves it.
Yeah.
He was like, it's not just a podcast. Oh, got it.
It's a pea in a podcast.
It's a peanut podcast. It isn't making money, but it's making babies.
Which is even better.
The
Which is
world
costing
needs,
money.
The world needs more babies.
Yeah.
So when you were at Stage Door Manor, as Beanie was describing to me, some people were kind of the stars of the summer, and some were not.
Right.
Where were you?
I was a star. It's the only place in my life I've ever been a star, and it was really only for one summer.
Tell us about that summer, because that's a big summer.
Well, I was there for 2 years, and the first
That's
year.
it?
Yeah, that's all I was there for.
Okay.
Because I started going late when I was getting right up to the age where it would be inappropriate to go to summer camp anymore.
Right. You could almost be a counselor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had a distinct advantage because as a semi-straight acting dude,
With lesbian moms.
right, at theater camp, you're going to, well, just as a guy in summer camp, at theater camp, you're going to do well. Because it's probably a 2 or 3 to 1 ratio of girls to guys.
Right.
So they're always looking for guys. And then I was a little older, which is helpful. 15, 16.
You could play Tevye.
I could play Tevye, or Dr. Martin
What's his
Dysart.
name?
Martin
Yes.
Dysart in Equus.
Richard.
Is it Richard?
Well, didn't Richard Dysart
Oh, that's the actor.
play
Martin
it?
Dysart.
Yeah.
Dysart?
They're both dead. Please continue.
So that second summer that I was there, after they kind of knew me, I was in Equus, and I was the Pirate King in Pirates of Penzance. Probably my last musical that I've done.
That's amazing.
And
so
it
you got
doesn't
to do
require that much singing.
No, but you got to have swagger.
Oh, I had so much swagger. And Yeah, and I think I won awards. It's the only time in my life I've ever won awards for
Like a
anything.
Tony. You got
Yeah.
a Tony?
I got the Stage Door Tony, and that is when I peaked. That summer is when I peaked. 16
And
years old.
do you think that feeling of getting to do this thing that you love, and people loving you for it, is that maybe where the drive to maybe think of this as a profession?
Oh no, no! I
That
knew.
was at 9.
Oh, that was at 9. No, I knew at 9.
Did you see a movie like Chaz Palminteri was just here? He's like, I saw Around the World in 80 Days, and I'm like, I'm going to do that.
No, I had
Did
a
you see Around the World in 80 Days?
No.
I didn't either. But I had the whole conversation with him, like, yeah, no, that the Technicolor alone.
A lot of times, what I do is when people tell me something that they've seen or read, I just nod, and then I feel terrible, and I say I'm nodding, but I haven't seen it because I feel like I'm lying, and although I'm just not that comfortable lying.
In general?
In general.
That's a great quality.
That's all right.
I mean, maybe it gets you in trouble sometimes.
No.
You're not mean about it.
I don't think so.
You're not
I
a
hope
mean
not.
truth teller.
I can say like, Alana, it's great to be here. Like I can say that with a straight face. You know what I mean?
But are you nodding even though you haven't
No,
read
it's
it?
so great to be here.
Why? Why is it so great to be here? So far, what is great about being
So far,
here?
the best part is your Van Halen sweatshirt. By far.
By far. Not the spit take that I just did.
No, but that was a really good spit take.
Yeah.
But I felt like I earned it. I can tell you the moment. I mean, I remember it exactly. I was 9. I was doing this play, and
What was the play?
I don't know. It wasn't even like a real play. It was like some sort of like
Made up play.
kind of. Yeah, I think it was. And I had probably a tiny role. I was 9, and I had to go from upstage to downstage, and something happened on my 4-foot movement where I tripped while singing and kind of fell and kind of recovered, and in that moment continued doing what I was doing. And for some reason it was that moment of I think feeling powerful in a way, because even though I had fallen, I was still sort of in control and controlling how I was presenting myself and what was happening. That was the moment. I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, what an amazing thing. Like, even as a metaphor, the idea of falling and having the wherewithal to figure out how to get up in front of an audience, that is a powerful thing. So, were you one of the only people you knew? There are a lot of kids in my children's class with 2 moms or 2 dads. That was not true when I was growing up. And I wonder, when you were growing up, were you the only one who had 2 moms?
Oh, God, yeah.
So, your parents were divorced?
My parents were divorced.
You have a brother?
I have a brother
I
and
think
a
I
sister.
read that in some notes, yeah.
Uh-huh. And
Oh, you have and a sister, so
I have a
where are
younger
you?
sister.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm meeting my wife.
And yeah, having gay parents was not a thing. That was not something that one did.
Oh,
That
sorry.
was not in vogue, as they say.
And was your mom and Arlene, are they still together?
No.
Okay. Were they out? Or did people think, like, my parents are divorced and my mom has a roommate?
It was like they were neither out nor in. They were in the shadows.
But it feels like a parent-teacher conference.
It would have been my mom. No, I mean they weren't really out as a couple, but they weren't really hiding it either. It was just sort of, and we lived in a little townhouse in New Jersey, surrounded by neighbors. I mean, it's not like there was no mystery to anybody, but nobody talked about it, and we didn't talk about it to them. So everybody was just kind of turning a blind eye.
But would your mom and Arlene walk around holding hands?
No.
So they were private.
Yeah.
How old were you when they got together?
5.
You're really little.
Yeah.
So probably, do you remember much before that?
Not really. I mean, my parents didn't get along. I remember that, and I remember that my mom was then with Arlene, and but I didn't think anything of it. I mean, I wasn't old enough to be aware that it was weird, other than this was a person who was not my parent.
Right.
The way I think any kid would.
What's the age difference between you and your siblings?
My brother is almost 2 years older, and my sister is about 1.5 years younger.
And are they really funny also?
No.
Okay. Are they super smart?
My brother is. My sister has Down syndrome, so I would not say she's super smart. My brother's funny. I mean, yeah, he has a good sense of humor. He's an actuary.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah, that's some funny stuff. And so no, I wouldn't say they're particularly funny.
Right, but you grew up with.
I wouldn't say I'm particularly funny.
Well,
I mean, I'm not even being self-deprecating.
Michael,
I mean that.
Did you watch yourself recently
No.
on Colbert?
No,
Really?
I didn't.
Okay. Well, I suggest to you and everyone listening that you Google or
Right.
YouTube Michael Ian Black on a March 2018 episode of The Late Show with Colbert. It was?
Yeah, I might have, maybe December or January.
Okay, I watched it in March.
Yeah, in preparing for this. Which,
You're
I mean, I appreciate that you prepared.
Oh, I spent hours. I also read the book that you wrote about your relationship with your wife,
Uh-huh.
and I said to my husband, if I could write, and if I wrote a book
You would
about,
write that love letter to my wife.
I would write in your voice that you have my exact brand of funny, which is a very intoxicating thing in a read.
That's kind of
It,
you.
I mean, you've written many books for children and adults. I suggest the sort of memoir about your relationship be read by adults, but kids might enjoy
the
it
name,
too.
which you do not even recall.
What is the name of the book? Like How to Be Amazing? As a husband?
That book is called You're Not Doing It Right.
That's right. You're not doing it
Oh, I
right.
know. No, I know it's right.
No, you're.
But that's right.
I read it a long time ago because we were supposed to do this a long time ago.
I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. But I had the magical thing happen where Kismet and Serendipity all get married, which is I was doing laundry in my building. And my building has sort of a lovely thing where people bring books that they're done with to the laundry room, and kind of we do a little book swap. Literally had been like emailing you, when can we do it? Well, I'm going to Canada.
And somebody dropped
And
my
someone had-
book into the laundry
Had
chute.
had finished it and wanted to share it, is more how I think about it. And I thought, wow, here's his book.
Right.
That's crazy.
Not even bargain bin. Laundry room.
Free. Free, exactly. I recently, Peter Hedges, the magnificent, he wrote What's Eating Gilbert Grape and a million things. I was in like a dollar store, and the screenplay for Pieces of April, his wonderful indie film, was like in the 99-cent store, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I like sent him a picture of it, like, oh my God, you're in the, and I was like, that probably made him feel awful.
Right. It probably wasn't like a great feeling for him.
Right. For me, I was like, he's so famous
Right.
that his book,
Is worthless. Is essentially worthless.
he doesn't need money. He's got fame. Which would you choose, money or fame?
I don't want fame.
No?
No.
Okay.
Money. Every time. Every single. Fame is worthless and annoying.
Okay.
I say that as somebody who is only marginally famous, but I can sense from the better known people that I have been around that it's the worst. Matthew Broderick walking up, Bueller. You don't want to deal with that 800 times a day.
On your city bike?
Right. You don't want that.
No, but every time someone says Bueller, he gets $1 million.
Oh. I mean,
Bueller, ka-ching.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And now he has to essentially split that with you because you're having his baby.
Yeah. Twins.
Wow. Congratulations.
This is so stupid. I don't know why I said that and where it's going, but somehow I feel like there's a cease and desist letter coming my way. You finished summer camp. You are a star. You decide to go to college. Do you major in being an actor?
Yeah. I went to NYU, and the major was literally called Be an Actor. And I dropped out after 2 years.
Why?
Because I needed to get out. I just felt, well, first of all, I got a job opportunity to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, which I
That
know.
doesn't happen every day.
No, it doesn't. And whatnot, they were doing a touring show with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a friend of mine and I got the opportunity to be promotional turtles.
Like Javits Center?
No,
turtles? Bigger than Javits.
No, much smaller. We would travel ahead of the touring show and do the promotions at the Pizza Huts or the weather, the local news.
And you felt that rather than, a liberal arts education along with a BA,
would have been a BFA.
A BFA, pardon me, life skills.
What I felt was somebody's going to pay me to travel across the country, to drive across the country in a van with my friend.
Who was the friend?
His name's Ben Grant. He is one of the co-creators and stars of Reno 911. He wrote Night at the Museum, co-wrote Night at the Museum, those movies. Very successful. But what I didn't realize at the time, when I got excited about it, was that I needed to leave school. I was terribly depressed, and it wasn't until I got out that I realized that, and it wasn't until I got out that I realized partially why. And when I realized, I got pretty angry, and what I realized was that acting school, the way acting is taught, I don't know if it's only in America, but certainly the way it's taught in America, I think is a class action lawsuit waiting to happen.
Tell me.
Because they are doing, almost by its nature, they're doing psychological work that they are not qualified to do. So acting teachers,
by virtue of the fact that they are in this powerful position of being your
it's a combination of
guru.
things. Yeah. They a lot of them set themselves up as gurus, intentionally or not. I think a lot of them fall into that trap. And the work, because it is so rooted in the method, which involves a lot of psychological work, and they are teaching, I'm doing air quotes, but you can't see them, and I'm not even, Lana can't even see them because I'm not actually doing them, but I'm doing them vocally. Because there's so much psychological work in the method, which relies on using sense memory and deep emotional pain to access things, they feel like they have to sort of get into your psyche. I'm now deeply skeptical of that kind of teaching, and I feel like they're just doing work they're not qualified to do, and because I was so eager to be an actor and to be a good student, like I went as deep into it as I was capable of, and I didn't really have the emotional tools to deal with that well.
When I was in an acting studio, not exactly the same scenario as you, but I was in an acting studio where it was a sense memory class, and people would come in, and it was just one traumatic event after another, and it became very competitive, right? Like, who could have the most?
Right.
And I was like, I got nothing. Like, grew up in Gen X, like the most loving family, parents still together, went from, middle class happiness, Broadway shows to celebrate our birthdays. I had once been on a horse and thought, like, oh, I might fall off the horse. And I was like, but I didn't. But I went in, and like literally there was this one girl doing an exercise where she kind of showed the whole class how she would come home from her day in present day. This wasn't even like back in her childhood. And as a grown person would like take off her, clothes of the day and get into her pajamas and go into her fridge, and she'd like set it all up with the props and furniture in the room using cubes and stuff, but she brought in her own prop that none of us had seen. And then at the end of like all of the stuff she did, she took a baby bottle out from behind, the groceries she put in the fridge and sat on the couch and drank from a baby bottle. I had to go after that. So I was like, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? I once threw my friend's doll in the pool because I was jealous of the doll, but like, and I ended up like recreating the horse thing, but like in mine, like I fell off and I broke a leg, and then,
You were just lost.
got like, and then everyone was like, amazing. So that's when I was like, oh, it can be true,
Mhm.
or it doesn't have to be true.
Mhm.
But if I believe in it, I can fool everybody. And that's why I have a podcast. But you know, I have friends who run, I don't know if when you were at NYU you could kind of choose which studio. Do they have
Yeah.
that back then?
Yeah, to a certain extent, you could choose. I mean, I definitely chose the studios, and I expressed an interest in the
Right.
studios I was in.
I have friends who run in New York City the Atlantic Theater Company, and they also have a school. And the whole premise of that studio and school, which was born out of David, kind of the brainchild of David Mamet and Bill Macy, is just say the words. It's actually the exact opposite of that. Like, we've given you a map.
Right.
So if you say the words, actually, please don't act.
Right.
And some people love, the world of Mamet, and some people don't. But it's kind of a terrific response to exactly what you're talking about.
I have been watching a lot of Mamet lately. He does this master class, and I bought the master class.
So that's a real thing.
It's not only a real thing.
Malcolm Gladwell and Annie Leibovitz and Steve Martin, all these people. I'm like, do I put my quarters in the
Right. How much of a sucker am I?
Yeah.
There were enough people doing them that my interest was piqued enough.
Yeah.
That I signed up for the whole kit and caboodle. Because you can sign up for one for
you
like
can sign
$90.
up for kit or caboodle.
I signed for the kit and caboodle.
Amazing.
$180 gives you access to all of them. And so I started watching, and I was watching Mamet and Aaron Sorkin, and I started the Helen Mirren one, and they're great. They're really great. I mean, you take what you want from them.
Well, I started writing just watching the Malcolm Gladwell trailer. I was like, got it.
What, you had your 10,000 hours just from watching?
10,000 seconds, exactly. Done.
And
I knew everything about you when we sat down. It all in the first minute.
You blinked and that was it.
Air quotes not.
These chairs have, in the beginning, I had almost reached my tipping point because of the chairs.
Malcolm,
That's a
we
Malcolm
salute
Gladwell
you.
reference.
We salute you, New Yorker Magazine.
But
so
when
in
I was
watching
younger,
Mamet
when I
and
was
these master
younger, I
classes,
had a visceral anti-reaction, or I guess a visceral reaction, but a negative one towards Mamet, because it just felt like it was such a knock on actors. I have since come to feel otherwise.
Oh, you took the master class.
I took the master class. Now I have mastered acting. I don't believe, I'm not all there with him, but there's a lot of truth in what he says.
Well, he's all there with you. So you
Did he
should
say
know.
that? Oh my God. Did he say that?
I'm a little embarrassed.
Did David say that?
He was just here.
Oh my God.
So he took your master class.
I'm like blushing.
Well, if you had a master class in comedy, writing, and improvising, you came up at a time where suddenly places like Comedy Central existed. And so SNL wasn't sort of the only choice for someone who wanted to do comedy, to dream of one day being on that. Suddenly, the thing that is so impressive to me about you is that you found ways not just to be a Ninja Turtle early on in your career, which some people, that's kind of what happens at the end. If you think about it. A
lot of people get into this game to end up being a Ninja Turtle. I started as a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah.
To get into every other thing.
I do feel like, I think it was Laura Linney who was here. I think she really was recently in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film. And I was like, okay.
Why not?
Why not Laura Linney? Done
the
everything.
check clears.
Exactly. But so, Kate, my case in point, you in fact started there. How did this, was Stella first?
No,
what was the beginning?
The State
was
my sketch comedy show.
And you started that with some friends?
Yes.
Or they invited you in?
No, it was all, well, we all kind of started it together my freshman year at NYU. But it was the brainchild of one of our members named Todd Hollabeck. And yeah, we ended up with our own show on MTV.
Well, that's an incredible thing, because really at that time there was Real World.
Right.
And there wasn't a lot of original comedic content happening. So, I mean, depression, they do say, is great for comedy. So maybe it was good that you were not a happy freshman.
No, I was miserable.
I'm so sorry, and I shouldn't have even kidded about that.
Yeah, you should have either issued a trigger warning that you were going to make a joke
Right.
to me,
Right.
or even a spoiler alert would have been helpful.
What is a trigger warning? Do you just say this might trigger you?
Yeah, I think that's what you say. Just attention listeners, in the next few seconds, I'm about to make a joke about depression that some of you may find very distasteful.
I'm gonna do even better. I'm just gonna edit the whole thing out.
No, we're very funny together. This is all very funny.
But
There's no but.
but there's someone in Iowa might not think so.
Well, if they don't, they can go fuck themselves. Right?
Not Iowa as a state.
No. Just that isolated, depressed person
Who doesn't
who's going
get
to
it.
take offense.
Yeah. And all I'm trying to do is cheer them up.
That's right. That's what you're here for.
So you got? Have you done
and
comedy?
sorry,
Have
one
you
more
done
thing. I
stand-up
just
before
saw-
you
I
got
was
to
just
school?
reading your
Because
email
you're very
for
young.
stuff.
Not much
Yeah.
stand-up.
Yeah,
has
I think we're gonna need
Oh, I
like
didn't do
a-
any stand-up.
All right,
Yeah,
but
I
you
did
were
just
funny,
clear out a
and you
little,
could
or
make people
not a
laugh.
little bit of, like
Yeah,
500
kind
gigs
of.
from ours. I deleted all the big
So the
GNX,
state was
or
sketch. It really
GNX
wasn't stand-up.
125 versions
and
of
the
our
difference is we
string
would
outs,
write
just keeping the
every,
compressed
we were writing
versions.
little scenes.
Because those have already
Oh, I
built
think
up to
that's
like
it.
500
I didn't really
sites.
start doing stand-up
You
for
keep
much
calling it
later.
125, but I think it's 115.
115, yeah.
And I started doing it because
But no.
I had gotten
that's,
to a
that's
place
good. I
where
just have
people
a
kind
hunch,
of
'cause
knew who
we're
I
al- we're
was,
already,
and I was
it
starting
says
to
we
get
have
offers
three-
to do it.
three.
Yeah.
And it
And
had
I'd like
been
to
something that I
always
always
have
wanted
one.
to try.
Yeah.
So,
I was
and they're
afraid.
shooting a lot of data.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
you totally
And
right.
so-
I think we used like 7.
I thought
Yeah, and
it's kind of
stuff
now or
we don't
never.
folds up,
And
so-
so I was like,
It always
yeah,
seems-
I'm
I remember
going to,
Elvis
as they
Nick,
say
we
now,
kept getting
lean into this.
folded without
Yeah.
realizing it.
Remember when you described earlier being 9 and kind of you were on stage and then you fell and then you recovered and
It's
they
a way
loved
of
you
organizing, but not
for
really.
it and you loved yourself
Seems like limits,
because of
too.
it.
I don't
Do you
know
feel
how
that way
vision
with
feel
stand-up?
will
No.
make it worse.
What's that?
The one thing that
What's
I
that
found it
thing?
helpful for is when you're doing that
Well, first
big
of all,
easy find for searching for like sound effects, since it doesn't
I
let
don't
you
know.
pick like specific
I
folders,
don't know that I'd
it
ever
would let you pick
recaptured
just a
that
specific
moment.
partition of the Nexus. So it was helpful for
Maybe I
searching
knew
for sound
maybe.
effects like a little bit
No,
faster.
we were
Okay.
That's the one
exhausted
advantage I found.
and
But nothing that I've like
starving
that's kind of
and
like splitting
got
hairs
to take
over.
out diner food and,
Got it,
and,
got
and
it.
fell asleep.
How's everything going with the rest of your stuff?
No,
I'm
stand
done
up
with
for
Dailies
me
today, and I just finished a
is,
pass on
is
82.
Right.
And I'm about to jump right into 83.
Great. Tomorrow we'll
the
definitely start
closest
looking at
thing
some
that I
stuff.
can think of that is like
Thank
is
you.
going to the gym.
And again,
I
just
mean, it is such
if I'm
a
not here, we run out of
workout,
stuff to do, always rather have
sometimes
you
even physically.
Yeah,
Do you
I
like
talked
going
to
to the
Captain
gym or
Austin.
the feeling
I was
of
talking
when
with them
you've
this morning
done the
about
gym
the-
and then
It's
you're like, I
yeah.
just worked out?
It's where I
Looking at
like
that kind of like
having worked out.
12:31
Like
delivery. So
having
it sounds
worked
like
out.
it's like the first half
There
of
are
the day, I'll
moments,
just be able
and not
to-
even moments, there are shows where you
You know,
know,
a
you
few
feel
hours,
it's
half
great,
hour.
and like, you're just kind of
Perfect.
floating.
That's gonna be great.
So
But
we'll get
a
about-
lot
we'll
of
get caught up
times,
this week.
it's not that it's a slog, it's that it's a lot of concentrated effort, and I'm not even learning.
Do you write your own material
Oh,
by
yeah,
yourself?
yeah.
So also, it's such a different solitary experience because you started out working with friends,
Mhm.
you made each other laugh, and then lo and behold, other people enjoyed it too,
Yeah.
which is just icing on the cake. So that's probably, is this the only thing that you do? And you write by yourself, obviously, when you write your books, but
Mhm.
you're out there by yourself. That's scary.
It is scary. It's less scary now than it used to be. It's scary in a different way for me. It's scary because I'm perpetually in a moment of like, is this as good as I get at this? How do I find, or is that the last joke I ever wrote? Like, am I ever going to find another joke? Am I ever going to find another premise? Am I ever going to like figure this out in a more cohesive, deeper way than what I feel like I'm doing in that moment? So, and writing's the same, I guess. You know, it's hard for me to feel terribly confident or comfortable with what I'm doing, and I wish I did. I wish I felt better about it.
Well, I was thinking in when you said earlier that I researched you, I did and I do. I'm researching you right now, and I feel like
And I do find it rude that you've been on your phone this entire time.
Well, I was thinking about how it can be, I guess my fantasy of you is extremely confident because you say things out loud, either on Twitter or talk shows or in other interviews, that you really feel about politics and the world and people, and you are willing to stick your neck out for the things that you believe in, or even just to get the dialogue going. When did you feel like, okay, I can do this? First of all, people are listening to you. You have many followers. How come you have so many followers? Did you buy them?
No. In a sense, yes, but not literally.
But
well,
how do you?
Well, okay. So I have 2 million something followers on Twitter. I can tell you that that number is both nonsense and meaningless. It happened because I joined Twitter right before Twitter took off. And I was one of the earlier comedians who I feel like was using the platform well.
And did you just intuit? Like, this
yeah,
is
I think
be a
I
good
just
thing,
kind of
and my
got
voice
it.
works in
Yeah.
20 yeah.
I think I just kind of got it very intuitively. And so Twitter had this thing when they were experiencing their exponential growth where certain people, essentially, if you were interested in comedy, like, I would just appear on your feed. That's where that number comes from. It has, that growth of, like, tens and tens of thousands of followers coming all the time. That has not existed for me in a very long time. So that number, it's a totally artificial number. No, I never bought any followers, but I may as well have.
Right, but people are engaged with you. I mean, you see,
Yeah.
when someone bought followers because they have 2 million followers and 7 people liked the thing they
Right,
wrote, right? So
right.
there's a major disconnect
Right.
between those two worlds. But obviously, people are really engaged with you, and you engage with them.
I do.
Does it take up a lot of your time
Yeah,
where
it's a
you should be
problem.
doing other
Yes,
things?
yes.
So how do you handle that?
I don't handle it well. I mean, it's my ultimate procrastination tool. And I can't tell you the number of years I have thrown away responding to...
That's where your 10,000 hours went.
Yeah, and yet I seem to be getting worse at Twitter, not better.
Do you tell your kids to get off your phone?
It would be so hypocritical.
Well, sure, but that's what parenting is
Right.
generally.
It's primarily...
That's what my book is. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, no, not really. My kids, I mean, my daughter is on more than me, but she's usually just binging a television show on her phone.
It's not Snapchat or
No,
something.
I mean, she's on Snapchat, but I don't feel like she's constantly
Obsessive.
on Snapchat. Yeah.
What do you think about technology in general?
It's
Do you
a
think
very
it's
broad
a
question.
value add for you personally?
For me personally, you know what? I think yes. I think Twitter overall, specifically, has been a value add for me.
In what ways?
Well, I've gotten jobs from Twitter. I've certainly reached people from Twitter. In some ways, I have found a voice that I didn't have on Twitter. But the downside is the downside that you think. It is time-consuming. It is addictive, and you run the risk of being performative in your opinions. And I try to be aware of that and on guard for that. And at least, look, everything you do in public and sometimes in private is performative to a certain extent. I try to be at least aware of why I'm doing what I'm doing and kind of how I'm doing what I'm doing when I'm doing it. And I don't know that I always succeed, but I'm at least trying to be aware.
So I'm gonna flip back to the beginning of this specific chapter of our conversation, which was MTV, and that must have been thrilling to get a job that wasn't in a turtle outfit, I imagine.
Yes, it was considerably less smelly than
And
being in a
with
turtle
friends,
outfit.
more friends.
Yes, although my turtle friend was also in the same. Yeah.
Yes, and I hope you're still friends with him because he's doing very well, and maybe he can put you in more stuff. Yeah.
Yes, he did put me in something. He
Right.
put me in Hell Baby. That's the thing you mentioned. I think I'm in Hell Baby for maybe a minute and a half.
So that's really nice of him.
It was really nice.
Because a lot of people, anyone could have you know, he had other friends, and
Sure.
he chose you.
Sure.
So, take me through a little bit this this ensemble that you created, and those relationships generated other jobs and other work and more, and a way to support yourself.
Yes.
Have
So-
you ever not supported yourself since then?
No.
That's incredible.
That is incredible, and I don't take that for granted. I mean, I have been very fortunate, very lucky, because, you know, there were any number of sketch comedy troupes all over the country who just as easily could have gotten that show on MTV and done just as well.
Right, but
Um,
the state got it.
But we happened to look into it. And it was incredible to be 20, 21 with, you know,
A TV show.
a TV show on a
hot,
network.
Hot.
Yeah. But there is a, I mean.
How
but
long
it-
did you
but-
do it for?
3 years or something, and then we fucked it up so bad.
Why?
It would have fucked up anyway, because there were 11 of us, which is an ungodly number for that kind of work. And there was no leader. It was all very democratic. And so a lot of tensions arose.
Yeah.
And we were, you know, young and not emotionally mature enough to handle those tensions. And I think we did as good a job as we could have in terms of managing egos and trying to be fair, but it was impossible. And it would have imploded sooner rather than later.
How did it actually end? Like, what was the end?
Well, it kind of fizzled. What happened was we were on MTV for a while, and we were starting to get attention, and the networks were starting to call. And ABC basically said, we want to put you on against SNL. And we were like, yeah, let's do that. And so we were making this deal with ABC, and the next thing we knew, the deal had fallen apart, and there was no deal. And then CBS was like, well, we'll do something with you. And we're like, all right. And we ended up on CBS doing we were supposed to do a series of specials at a time when, like, Murder, She Wrote was, like, their biggest hit. Like, we had no business being on
Right.
CBS.
Right. Not exactly the same audience.
It was not the same audience, but, you know, they were like, well, we want to get younger, which, you know, they've been saying
Since
Yeah, I'll
then.
bring that.
probably 30 years before that.
Yeah.
So we did one special, we did a Halloween special, and it was like the lowest rated thing on TV that week.
Right. It made no sense.
It made no sense. And then the next day we were basically fired, and then it was like, I don't know what's next.
So how long after that did you get Ed?
Oh.
Was that many years later, or
well-
not that long after?
Well, I did a show called Viva Variety after the state, and then that was a few years, and then I went out to LA for like a year and a half, where I was kind of messing around, and then I decided I didn't want to be in LA, and I came back, and Ed kind of fell into my lap.
You
right
didn't
after that.
audition? It wasn't like pilot
No, I
season and
auditioned.
you,
I
yeah,
auditioned,
but you got it.
Yeah, I got it.
And that went on for years.
That went on for 4 years. Yeah.
So when did you start writing, how did writing children's books and sort of memoirs, and how did you move into also writing?
Because the state was a sketch comedy troupe, we had to generate material, and if you wanted to be in something, it was best if you wrote it, because the writer was responsible for casting.
Uh-huh.
So
You're like, I think Michael Ian Black would be very good.
essentially that's what happened.
Yeah.
So the state was always very competitive, and if the group liked your sketch, you know, it was kind of understood that you would be the star of it.
But on SNL, I mean, when you said it was sort of like, you know, communism or socialism, maybe. Which was it?
It was-
Somewhere in the middle.
It was more of a pure democracy.
Okay. There's a Lorne there in other shows.
Right.
There's someone. There's the creator.
Right.
There's the boss person.
Right.
And you all pitch that person, or
Right.
you like when you're doing what you're doing. How do any of these? Was there an MTV person there?
There was, but it, we kind of bullied the executives. I mean,
They were like, you know what, they're going to do their own
kind
thing.
of.
And
We were sort of a force of nature. We were hard to deal with, which was a good thing, I think, from our perspective. But it was simple. Like every day at 2, you'd come in with whatever material you had. We'd read it out loud, and then at the end of the day, at the end of that session, we'd vote. And you know, if you got votes, your sketch would kind of go on a board, and we'd do it.
So Michael Showalter, David Wayne, people who my listeners will know who like you have gone on to kind of create hilarious and different things.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys all come together?
What do you
Later.
mean? Well,
then when Stella happens.
Right. Around the time that we were on MTV, there was it came to be called alternative comedy, but a kind of new comedy movement that was happening in LA.
And how would you
We were in
describe
New
that
York.
movement?
It was a very blatant rejection of everything that had kind of immediately preceded it. So that very Seinfeld-esque observational stand-up comedy, which
broke ground in that way.
Absolutely broke
Right.
ground in that way, and flourished for a little while in the 80s and into the early 90s, and then that whole scene just collapsed. And there were a lot of people in that world kind of looking around and going, well, what happens now? Where does comedy go from here? So in LA, this movement started percolating with people like Patton Oswalt and Jeanine Garofalo and David Gould and Paul F. Tompkins and Marilyn Rice Cub, and you know, and they were starting to experiment with storytelling or with conceptual things, and then a few people decided to start that in New York, and one of them is named Lisa Langang, and she's become a comedy executive since then. I ran into her in the subway. She basically invited me to come start performing at this place called Rebar. And so I did. Now, it wasn't stand-up. I mean, I wasn't doing stand-up. I didn't really know what I was doing.
Were you doing scenes?
I was experimenting. I mean,
you were talking in front of people.
Sometimes not even. Sometimes I was doing this kind of conceptual thing where I was interested in taking...
like Moomin shots?
Kind of. I was interested in context. I was interested in, like, what could you take from the real world and bring it into a comedy context and have it be funny by virtue of the fact that it's in a comedy context. So,
like
okay,
what?
Alana, I'm about to give you an example.
Oh, I'm just so excited.
I used to like browsing on New York City streets. They'd have these guys like outside the 23rd Street flea market, and they'd bring like blankets out, and they just have this random shit out there, like shoes or a cassette tape, you know,
It was hard to
ties.
tell how it was curated.
It was
maybe not
it
a
was
lot
hard
of
to tell where
curating.
it was curated and where exactly it came from.
Right.
And you would just sort of browse it and make an offer for $1 or something. So, like, one of the things that I did was I brought a blanket into Rebar, and I just took a bunch of my possessions and put them on the blanket and just stood there quietly until somebody said how much for the whatever, and I just started selling my things. And it was funny.
Like an installation.
That was that was as close to an art installation as
Like
I've ever done. Yeah.
You could bring that to MoMA and people would be like, oh, interesting. I love what he's doing.
Maybe, but I did make like $15.
So you would take money from the audience.
Oh, I took the money, yeah.
Sure you did.
I wasn't not going to take the money. That was part of the deal.
Right.
And part of the concept was, yeah, I will take your money.
Right.
That was one of the things that I did. I did this thing. One of my earliest things was like doing as sincere as I could exploration of what it would be like to be a cat, and like sort of.
See, this is when I'm sad it's audio. This. I think we're filming.
Oh, we are
Great.
filming.
Could you?
So, like, the piece was like, I wonder what it would be like to be a cat. Like, what would it feel like to have whiskers? And like doing that as sincerely as I could. And it was funny because it was so stupid. But there was nothing inherently joke-filled about it. It wasn't stand-up in any real way. The only joke was at the end, where I asked the audience, how did the cat die? How did the cat die? And then inevitably somebody, or what killed the cat would kill the cat, and then somebody would say curiosity. So, feline leukemia. Feline leukemia killed the cat. Thank you. And that was the end of the piece.
And then the MC would be like, Michael Ian Black, everybody.
Basically, yeah. So it's like that kind of thing, where it's not stand-up, it's kind of ideas explored. And in a weird way, I'm trying to get back to that now. Not a weird way, it's not weird at all. I am trying to get back to that a little bit.
In your stand-up.
Yeah, because I think...
Or in your life.
More in my stand-up than my life. Although a little bit in my life. Because I do think
you go to your house, there's a blanket on the front lawn. One broken ashtray. Well, when you look at the people on your show, Pat the Amazing.
Oh, yeah, that show.
Which is, I mean, a podcast is just one of many things
Broderick
that you have
hasn't
going
done
on. No.
Lenny hasn't done it.
No. Yet.
Not yet.
I am happy to share.
Thanks.
I'm not a guest hoarder.
I actually don't interview actors very often.
No, but I'm excited that I'm coming on. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Oh, yeah.
First of all, yeah. That would be a thrill just to, do crafty for your podcast. I feel like a lot of people ask me, because I've done, maybe not as many as you, but you may be my 100th interview.
Oh, then you've done more than me.
Okay.
We're not quite at 100 yet.
All right, so a lot. And I think, when I looked over your roster of guests and sort of all of the people you have on, and it's every one of them has kind of accomplished something really significant in their chosen field. And every one of them worked really hard to make that happen. I would say a criteria for me is to have artists on this show that I find inspiring, not just by their craft and what they've accomplished, but also because they seem to have remained really good people at the same time. Today is in honor of my 100th episode. I've broken that rule.
I'm just trying to think, I've now had people who have been on my podcast. The reason I was making that reaction, which
they're also horrible. They're
no.
They were.
Everybody has been lovely, but then subsequently, at least a couple of them have lost their jobs due to sexual harassment thing.
Yeah.
That's why I was. Yeah. That's why I was sort of looking up at the sky and thinking about.
Well,
those
that's a
guests.
whole. I mean, that is a whole other conversation. Do we stop